I went to a medical conference and I was so encouraged and I was so empowered at the end of it because people came up to me and they were like, we need this. We need to hear more about this. Keep going. Don't stop. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep learning, keep studying, keep teaching other
Right.
people, keep showing them the way, keep bringing opportunities to them, that can help them grow.
Your network is your net worth. Come listen to some of the most successful people I know share invaluable knowledge, stories, and advice in real estate, business, and beyond. This is Weiss Advice. Whether you want to take your business or personal life to the next level, look no further. Welcome back to another episode of Weiss Advice. That's me, Yona Weiss, your host, as always, on this wonderful journey I like to call a podcast. And you guys have been along for so long. So thank you to all the listeners for tuning in once again. And we have another awesome guest today. I'm excited to have on the show Dr. Nkem Ezeamama. Did I get that right?
Yes.
All right. We are excited to have her. She is an incredible person. Not only is she an emergency room physician, right? But she's a multifamily investor and has just done incredible things. I'm excited to have her on the show because she's just got so much energy. We were able to meet at a conference in person a few months ago and said, hey, you got to come on the show because we got to bring this energy to Weiss Advice. So how you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me here. It's to get the invitation was very exciting and to just, to be a part of something that's bigger than me. I have been so thrilled and I've been looking forward to it. So I'm excited to bring the energy. I'm excited to just chat and just to have a conversation. And I hope that, at the end of the day, I learned something and I hope that your listeners learn something as well.
Absolutely. I mean, hopefully that's why they're tuning in week after week, because to learn something or just to be entertained with the combination of the two, because, that's what we try to do. We have edutainment, I like to call it.
I like that.
I didn't coin that, but it just sounded right to me. Well, tell us a little bit about your background. Like I mentioned in the introduction, you are a doctor. You are a physician, and not just any physician. You work in the emergency room. I mean, that's wild to me because I don't like the emergency room, as most people probably don't, but as a visitor or as a patient, but you see it from a totally different angle. So tell us a little bit of your background.
I do.
I know you immigrated to this country, and tell us how that happened and what you've been up to.
Okay, so I will go back a little bit. My parents were not educated. It was during a war in Nigeria and both were taken out of school. And so education was paramount to my parents. And so they worked really hard to bring their kids to the United States to study because they felt like they would give them, their kids a better life than they got. And so we all helped each other. I'm a family of 7.
Wow.
And so one person brought the next person, brought the next person, brought the next person. And so that's kind of how we did it. And I'm towards the bottom. And so my sister was already in the US, and towards the end of high school, beginning of college, I came here and spent some time with her. And then I went off to school. And I remember it so well. I remember, kids going to college and their parents bringing them. And for me, it was jumping in a Greyhound with 2 suitcases and showing up in college. And I had to learn the hard way, but I wouldn't trade it for the world because from a young age, I understood the importance of being grateful for the things you had. And so even being able to have that education, it opened the doors. It opened the doors for so many things, so many opportunities. And truly, I'm here today because of them and because of that reason. And so I'm grateful. So I'm a Gator, went to University of Florida for undergrad, and then I went to med school at George Washington University. And I was just grateful to be able to I call that home. And from there, I knew I wanted to make a difference. And I knew that I wanted to impact people. And I wasn't sure it was the ER for a long time. I thought it was surgery. I thought it was OB. I loved women's health. And then I got to the ER. And as much as it scares people, the hustle and bustle just did it for me. You could walk into one room and you could deliver a baby. You could walk into the next room and you could take care of an old elder lady who told you about life and how she grew up. And you can walk into the next room and you're taking care of a little kid who has a cough. And then you could walk into the next room and you're coding a patient who's going to die. And you have to tell the family member, you have to give bad news. And so for me, it was controlled chaos. It almost felt like I was singing and dancing as you went from room to room, but in the hardest parts of their life, they met me. And I felt like, I got to hold a hand. I'll never forget a young
Wow.
lady who her grandma died and she had no other person and
Wow.
she had no other family member. And when I told her the bad news, she just said, "Can you hug me?" And that's all she wanted. And if I'm a germaphobe, you would laugh because I work in the ER. But I just held her and I hugged her and I
Well, you
said,
tried to hug
I
me,
don't.
so I'm not gonna.
Yes, you're right. Well, I'm a hugger. But, I just told her, I was like, I don't know what tomorrow brings,
Right.
but like, it's going to be okay. And so a lot of people do not like the ER. The ER is just chaotic, but it takes, I don't know, it takes a special type of person to be there. And then we form a team because we go through hard together. And so like we really, really rely on each other. So that's a little bit about how I ended up in the ER. And it's been a great ride. Like, of course, I can't tell you the stories, but if I could tell you the stories, like nothing surprises me anymore.
Yeah.
Nothing surprises me because I've seen it all. And maybe I haven't. I'll go to work and see something brand new. But yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, anything can happen. So I'm sure there are things you haven't seen yet, but hopefully you've seen enough. And that's really the point. There's just so much that goes on in ER. Yeah, I can't imagine. And you live in, a city where unfortunately there's, like every major city in the US, right? There's a lot of crime and violence as well. So I'm sure you see
Yeah.
a lot of that coming in.
I see drop and goes. Like for those, they just, something bad happens. They drop their loved one at the entrance and they run. And yeah, so we see all sorts.
That's crazy.
But
So,
we're protected. We feel safe. So that's
right.
a good thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What got you interested in real estate? Because obviously we didn't really mention that so much, but you are the founder of Phoenix Capital Investment, not the city, but the mythical bird, Phoenix. How did you get involved in real estate, and how did you kind of, as an ER doctor, it sounds like that's a profession that, you're extremely busy, right? You're on call, sometimes 24-hour shifts or something like that. It's just like, it doesn't seem like you have room for other side hustles or hobbies or anything like that.
So I'll tell you, and I want to kind of take some time and talk about this because what got me into this was when I realized it started with COVID-19 and the pandemic. And I realized that there was a lack of education for a lot of medical professionals when it came to financial literacy. And so during COVID, what you don't know is that, yes, we went through loss and grief, but we lost hours, we lost wages, and some of us lost our jobs. And some of us had to get second and third jobs just because, like, you saw how bad it was and you saw people dying, but you didn't realize the effects that it had on the healthcare system. And so that really, it got me really interested because I realized that even in a field like, as altruistic and as noble as what we did, we still had to worry about our jobs. And so at that point, I started learning about really what it meant to protect myself, my colleagues, my family from a financial standpoint. And I realized that I needed to figure out other ways to really grow wealth and not rely on a job that sometimes wasn't as stable as I thought it was. And so that's really how I started. I devoured books and I listened to podcasts. I learned about it. And I realized that, real estate investing was really a solid way to grow wealth. And so the more I learned, the more I told people, the more I shared the knowledge with people, the more I realized that you can still do what you love. You can still be passionate about medicine, but also take care of your family, take care of your kids for generations to come. And you can do that through real estate. So that was really big. And then the more I did it, the more I learned. And I started as a passive investor. So I started investing. I didn't jump into the active side initially. I just said, how can I grow wealth? How can I figure out other sources of income? So that when I walked into the emergency department, I did it truly out of passion. I really, truly still wanted to make an impact and wanted to change lives. And then that's how it started. And the more I did it, the more I learned, the more I educated others, the more I told my colleagues about it, the more I told friends, the more I told family. And that's how I realized that there was such a gap, between medicine, because we did, all we know is medicine, all we're taught is medicine. And I realized that there was a gap between that and our finances. And so I built Phoenix almost as a way to bridge that gap. And I realized that it was a need it was a really big need in the healthcare professional space. And that's why I embarked on it, even afraid, even terrified that, what did I have to offer as an ER physician doing this? But I realized that that was just a limiting belief that I needed to get rid of, because there was space for me. And I knew that I was giving value because there was a need that needed to be filled. So that's really how it has unfolded in ways I could never have dreamt. And I'm so glad that, the path is not, I only know that all I need to do is see 10 steps ahead of me. And I know, and I believe in my purpose and my why, in embarking upon this. And I know that the rest will take care of itself. So yeah, so that's how Phoenix was born. That's how we started. And I have to say, it's been an exciting ride. And it hasn't been easy. It has not been easy doing both, but I have grown exponentially in this phase of learning, how to be an entrepreneur, how to be a real estate investor, how to really educate investors. And I have loved every step of it.
And so are you still working full time in the ER simultaneously, or have you kind of scaled that back a little bit?
I have scaled that back a little bit. And so we talked about it, a little bit before we started, which was building a team. And so I realized the power of this. And I realized that, if I want to go fast, I can go by myself. But if I really want to go far and make a difference, and then it really means that I need people around me. So as I scale back, I'm building a team to kind of come on this journey with me and build Phoenix, because I really, truly believe in the mission and the vision. And I know that the fundamentals are there. So I'm just excited to grow. But yes, and that's the beauty of it. Like, I get to do this and still do what I'm passionate about, but I have scaled back.
And is your goal to scale back in time? Because it sounds like you really still have such a strong passion for medicine and for the ER and for what you do. And the way that you kind of introduced it at the beginning of the show, just how you're able to make that impact with interacting with people in like critical moments of their life. I mean, it's a very stressful environment for the patients, right? Obviously, to have doctors and have professionals who are there on the other side that can be comforting and can be reassuring and just kind of be, confident in what they're doing makes it all that much more, easy to kind of get through. So, I mean, I love that you're able to do, you have that passion. Is that something you continue, foresee to do that, regardless?
So the answer is right now, I want to say, I don't want to speak in fear. And I want to say the answer is yes, but it's going to be it's going to be a smaller scale.
Sure.
So it's not going to be the number of shifts that I'm working today, but it's truly to still get to touch a patient. That, to me, I really think there's a power in that, and I think that I have to be honest with you, Yona. I think that medicine has opened so many doors for me. And so I never want to take that for granted. I never want to lose sight of the ability to be able to do that and really to impact people. So I think the answer today is yes. Who knows when I re-listen to this in 5 years, what that's going to look like. But it's going to be to a lesser degree, because I truly feel I really have fallen in love with this entrepreneurial side. And it's a spirit that I never knew I had, because I went straight through school. I was very young and I didn't skip a beat. Like, I was a microbiome major. And from there, I went straight to med school. And from there, I did residence. And from there, I did work. And so I never got the opportunity to really delve into this side of me. And I love it. I love the interaction with people. I love the fact that you get to think and you get to adapt and you get to realize that you can fail, but it's not really failure. It's like you learn from something, you move on, you do it better for next time. And I've come to love it so much that I know that I want to build this more and figure out exactly what all of this looks like.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, obviously follow your passion. And when you find something new, it's a new passion and that can create even a bigger impact. Have you set like goals for yourself in terms of like what do you want to do in the next like 3, 5, 10 years or so? Or are you just kind of, because you mentioned like, maybe seeing 10 steps ahead. I imagine like being an entrepreneur, you can try to see like 1 or 2 steps ahead sometimes, but I mean, 10 steps is already great, but having those goals is important.
Yes. So one of my big goals is that I want to impact the healthcare professional community in a big way. I want to empower over 1,000 physicians to become financially free through investing in real estate. And so that's one of my big goals, because I feel like I got proof of concept and I want to empower others in the healthcare space to realize that And I said it before and I'll say it again, that like you can be passionate about medicine and you
Mm-hmm.
can do that to its full effect, but you still want to be able to be financially free and
Right.
build generational wealth. And so that's like one of my big goals. It's like when I get to that 1,000 mark, like I'll truly know that I'm like, okay, yes, I did something. And Yona, it's been really encouraging, because when I talk to, healthcare professionals, be it physicians or just professionals in general, this is something that they're excited about and they get it.
Mm.
Some people are working 12, 15 hours in the hospital and it takes a toll on you.
Yeah.
Yes, you signed up to make a difference and to impact lives, but when it eats into every facet of your life, then you start questioning, well, why am I doing this? And so to be able to build wealth and still get to do what you love, I think that there's such a beauty in that I think that a lot of people are excited to hear about it. They're open to hear about it. They're like, okay, tell me more. And that's where it starts. It just starts with that little, ooh, I never knew about this. I'm interested. And that's where, I don't know, that's kind of where I've come in.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it has to just do with, I mean, I don't know if I want to call it like fear of the unknown, but like you said, when most people who are in your profession, they have their head down focus, in pre-med and in medical school and residency. And it's just like, that's everything. That's their whole life for so long, for so many. I mean, you're talking like, a decade or close to a decade of just like totally just focus and not thinking about or doing like almost anything else. So it's hard to
Yep.
then even look outside of that. I mean, and look beyond that. Yeah.
And the truth is, we do medicine so well because that, like you said, that's all we know. But everything else, we're not that great at it. And so we walk this tightrope of, one day you come out and you're a high income earner, but what do you do with that? And that's the question. You have no idea and you rely on someone else. Yes, they're the expert, but you still need to you still need to be empowered. You still need to know, you still need to learn, you still need to
Mm-hmm.
understand what diversification means. You need to, those are things that no one talks about, no one teaches us. And so, yes, you're right. And like we do this for so long, but we also need to know the other things. And people are now realizing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of my closest friends who I've known for, for many years, who has one of the first people I knew who was like really involved in real estate, actually is a surgeon. And to me, like I knew him as a doctor, but I didn't know him as a real estate investor. But the funny thing is, like he started early on in his career and he had some help because I think his father was a businessman and owned some stores and some businesses. And so he learned about business that way. But one thing that amazed me was that when I ended up, speaking to him, when I started getting involved in real estate, 8 years ago or so, I was talking to him and I realized that he was making so much more money from his real estate investments than he was from his surgery. And he was able to, he had like remote kind of practices and he was able to just go in and do surgery, and do that. And like, that's basically all that he did because it was like his passion. He knew he was extremely good at it, he was extremely talented at it, and he was able to do it and help people that way. But at the same time, like his money was working for him. He had millions and millions, invested, and that was just paying all his bills and all his, cash flow and everything like that. So to me, that was amazing because you have people who, yeah, and you have to start early, right? You have to really make an impact. It does take time, right? You say like helping 1,000 medical professionals become financially free. That's not going to happen in, a year or two. That will take time. But
No.
if you do that and consistently learn how to do that and invest over, a relatively shorter period of time, you can be well off and totally stable.
100% correct. And you know what? I used to beat myself up because I'm like, why didn't anyone tell me about this 5, 10 years ago? But the truth is, maybe I wasn't ready for that. And maybe I needed the space, which I have today, to do this. And that's part of why I'm so passionate about it, is because I'm telling other people now, start now. I'm telling my residents, start now, so that it's so much easier for you. And, one thing I struggled with was like my identity, so like, my family, friends, colleagues, all they saw me as was Nkem, the physician. And so these were limiting beliefs that I needed to let go of, to be like, yes, I'm that, but I'm also a real estate investor, and I'm also this and I'm also that. And I've started, I've put in the work And that's the one thing that I had to let go of. So like hearing the story about that surgeon, it's so empowering to me because he was that and that. He still got to do what he loved. And like when you get to do something that like you truly makes a difference, like you get it. And he got that, but he's like, I want to do that on my own terms.
Right.
And that truly is the definition of what he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. He's able to take vacation. He's a grandfather now, so he's about 10 years older than me, but he's able to spend time with his kids and his grandkids and, whatever leisure he wants, makes his own schedule. And so that to me that's being financially free, is being able to make your own schedule, still being able to kind of use your skill to make an impact on those. And that's just amazing. And I love the fact that you're so passionate about this and helping others, because there aren't very many people out there that are in that position that can do that, that can have that. And people who are in the medical profession will relate much more to someone who's come from their world, because like you said, when you're totally immersed in that, like that's all you know. And so those are the people that and kind of that's your network, right? And maybe you might go to, I don't know, maybe you didn't, but like go to like conferences or medical conferences. And so you're still like networking and mingling with just those other colleagues. And so when you have someone coming from your world who can then bridge that gap, it's so much more impactful.
You're right. You're so right. And I was thinking about this when you said it, but I was at a medical conference, and Yona, I'm not going to lie to you. I have doubts. I question, am I good enough? Will I make a difference? Am I making an impact even in this? And I went to a medical conference, and I was so encouraged and I was so empowered at the end of it, because people came up to me and they were like, wow, you're doing this. We need this. We need to hear more about this. Keep going. And, I left I was like, oh, I'm going to change the world. Like I left feeling that way. And so it was so encouraging to hear from my other colleagues who said, we need this. We're desperate. Like we can't keep doing what we're doing. Times are changing. We can't do what our parents did and what our colleagues from 50 years ago did, where they showed up in the hospital at 5 a.m. and they were there till, 6 p.m. the next day. We want fuller lives. And so to be able to have that opportunity and to be able to find ways to do that, so it's funny because, this just happened 2 months ago. And it just made me realize that, Nkem, you're on this path. Keep going. Don't stop. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep learning. Keep studying. Keep, teaching other people. Keep showing them the way. Keep bringing opportunities to them, that can help them grow. So,
That's awesome. That's amazing. Well, definitely keep it going, because like I said, you have that energy, like we mentioned at the very beginning of the show, and it definitely comes through the sound waves here, I'm sure. So keep it going. We talked a little bit before the show, and I was really curious to know, and I'm always very curious to know the meaning of names and words, because my name, Yona, it's a Hebrew word. It's a name from the Bible. And so it has meaning. Like every word in Hebrew has meaning, not just, English words kind of don't have a lot of meaning necessarily, but I find that many other languages do. And so I was just curious to know what the meaning of your name was. So if you want to share,
I will tell you.
Yeah, go for it.
Of course, I'll tell you. So my first name is Nkemka, and it means mine is better. And my last name is Ezeamama, and it means a well-known king.
Well-known king, right? And we talk about this. And so where's the root of that name from in your family?
My grandfather was a king. So that's where that name came from. And like I said earlier, I'm from Nigeria. So our names all have meanings. A lot of our names have biblical meanings. So I don't know. I don't know why my parents named me Nkemka, but it's just a name that's, it's just a name that has like stood the test of time in my life. So our ancestry has, like I said, my grandfather was a king, and that lineage kind of has fallen through us, or has, generations and future generations.
So you're royalty.
So we are royalty.
Yeah, you're a princess essentially. I mean, you're a Nigerian princess, just like the spam email I got yesterday. Was that you?
It was not me. It was not me. Don't open it, and don't send money. Please don't send money. Don't. Even if it sounds really good, and even if you're going to make a difference, just ask me first, and I will tell you otherwise.
Wow, amazing. This is unexpected turn of events here, but no, that's awesome. That's amazing. So you continue that, that lineage, that heritage that you have in your family, and bring that to the future generations. Well, good for you. And Nkem, I want to transition now to what we call the final four. These are 4 questions I ask all my guests, and you can take these any which way you want. First question is, what's the worst job that you ever had?
Oh, I remember this one. So I told you I went to University of Florida. In order for me to go to school, I needed financial aid. And so one of the clauses in one of the financial aid packets I got was that I had to work on campus. And my job was cataloging books in the library, and it was the Library of Science. There was nothing fun about this. You know how when you open a book, you see like XYZ00 underscore? That was my job. It was boring.
The
There was
Dewey
never
Decimal
anyone
System.
in the library.
What? The Dewey Decimal System. Was my favorite. They still use that?
There was never, yes, like you would be surprised. You would think like, and okay, so I don't want to date myself. I don't think I'm that old, but we were still using it when I was in college. And I was the person who had to do it. The library was quiet all the time. No one ever showed up on those floors. I don't even think anyone read those books, but I had to, all the journals, every single journal, I had to catalog it.
Wow.
It was
Yeah,
not fun.
that sounds pretty boring, but it helped get you through school. So,
It did. I am grateful for it. It helped get me through school. And I'm great. I think about like the opportunities that you get when you're by being in the United States. I'm a product of it and I'm so grateful for it. So yes, I got to go to school for almost free, but I had to catalog books and I was okay with that.
Okay. Well, that doesn't sound fun, but definitely a good experience from at least the outcome. The second question, I guess, similar. Speaking of books, we're going to ask you, what's a book you've read that's given you a paradigm shift?
I read a book. I don't know, a paradigm shift for me in that I read a book. Her name is Jamie Kern Lima, and her book is called Believe It. And it was a biography of her life. And she is the co-founder of It Cosmetics. And it is now a billion-dollar industry. And it was bought by L'Oreal. And she told her story. What was remarkable about that book for me is that she was persistent and she was resilient. And so she had some skin issues and she built a makeup brand to combat some of her skin issues. But she got no after no after no after no. And she was persistent until she got a yes. And she was herself every step of the way because she truly believed in her product and her brand. And she brought women along with her. And to me, that was so encouraging in when you step out into the unknown, when you take a chance on yourself, like no matter the no's, no matter all the no's. And I can relate it to like sometimes investors, they don't get it, they don't understand it. So some of their answers are flat out no, but that's okay, because I see the vision and I see where this is going and I see what can come out of it. And so reading her book, I was so empowered. Like a lot of what she experienced, like I remember reading one part of the story where she was like no after no, and she walked out of a meeting in tears. And so I understand what that, and I've gone through that. So just being able to see a success story in another woman who started out with nothing, with like doing, with creating stuff on the floor of her living room, and to become that, to me, it was just like, Nkem, you got this. Like you keep going, you stay true to your vision, you stay true to your goals and your values, and the rest would take care of itself. I loved reading that book. I sent it to my sisters. I was like, I tell every woman who can hear about it to just go read that book, because I think that it is just empowering to hear a story of another woman who has been successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Third question for you. What's a skill or talent that you would like to learn? This can be anything. It doesn't have to be, business related or anything.
Okay. So I have two. So I want to learn how to swim because I really want to run a triathlon, and I need to know how to swim to be able to do that. I love running. And so to be able to face a fear and to do that, but I'm terrified of the water. So it's hilarious, but it's something that I really, really want to learn. So that's a skill. And then I have been trying to tap into my creative side. So I don't know if that's a skill or a talent, but like someone who all I did was medicine and science, more of my left brain tweaks a lot more and functions. And there's such a power in being creative and just like the things that can come out of it, the ideas and just, how people think so differently. I find that so fascinating. So I'm trying to read books and I'm trying to like give myself space and time to think about how I can be creative, how come I can think of ideas, how I can implement things. So just like, I don't know if that's truly a skill, but it's something that I don't think that only a certain set of people are creatives. I think that you can learn it. So I'm trying to figure out, I don't know what that looks like, but I'm trying to figure out, and I think a lot of it is just giving myself space to think, to create, to come up with ideas and not be afraid to test and try things.
Yeah. And exactly what you're saying, test and try different things. I mean, you'll find, whether it's art or music or, writing or who knows what, I mean, you'll find something that resonates with you and you just go with it. Yeah. So that's awesome. That's great. And the swimming thing, regardless, you should learn whether to run a triathlon or not. It's just something that a skill everyone should need to know.
And then I miss out on a lot of water activities because I'm like holding on to a life jacket for the life of me. I'm like, I can't die.
Well, being in the emergency room, I'm sure you've seen some traumas from water. So that's not helpful.
And not at all. Not at all. Yeah.
Well, fourth and final question is, what does success mean to you? Okay.
Success for me is, it's not just living life on my own terms, because that truly already defines success. But I said it before and I meant it. For me, I have a big dream and a big vision, and it's to impact people's lives. Mm-hmm. And that looks different for different people. And so for me, success would be truly helping someone on their journey of discovery and growth. I think that to me, that will be like, I would have made a true impact in this world if I really, help someone like achieve their goals. That would be success to me. If I truly got to, like steer someone in the right direction and be like, these are the things that I've learned. This is how I've gotten this far in life. Come on this journey with me. And that takes root. I would call that success.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like you have a passion for, maybe being a coach at a certain point or helping other people with that regard, because it's, after experiencing things, you can definitely share that and give that over to other people as well and help them along the way. Well, and Nkem, this has been truly one of my favorite podcast episodes. So I appreciate you really coming on the show. And where can it was a success. So let's just put it that way. This was a success.
Yona, that means a lot. Hearing that, I was nervous coming on here, and I was like, well, I didn't know what we're going to talk about. I didn't know what we're going to talk about. So I was like,
we could talk about anything. We could keep going for a few hours. So, I mean, you never have to be nervous, but just be yourself, which you've done, pass with flying colors. But where can our listeners, I'm curious if anyone wants to reach out to you or find you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Okay. The two best ways to reach out to me is, number one, LinkedIn. I'm trying to grow my network. And so that's the one place that I have put time and effort into it. And I'd love to connect with people who are growing, who are like-minded. I just think it's such a beautiful space that people can grow and still be themselves. So I love that. And it's also a professional space. Also, if you had any questions, you can reach out to me on our website. It's www.phcinvest.com. And through there, you can join our community and learn with all the cool things that we share with our community.
Very cool. We'll make sure to put that in the show notes for anyone who wants to reach out. And I really appreciate you coming on today. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're very welcome. Yona, I want to just say thank you. I have learned a lot from you. And the one thing that you have taught me is like the power of reciprocity. And I think you know what that means, because I have received gifts and I've received just a ton of fun stuff from you. And I know that you have encouraged me every step of the way through LinkedIn and outside. So I'm truly grateful to have this opportunity to just sit with you. I have to say that I have learned a lot from you, just even like the content you post, what you do, how you lift other people up along with you. There's so much more that I can learn from you, but I really wanted to I wanted to say that out loud because I truly mean it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. No, it's always nice to hear. Well, I want to just end it off on a high note here. Not that there have been any low notes, but on a really high note, which is just thanking our listeners, because guys, we could not have a podcast without you. I mean, I could just have conversations with people, but I think it's impactful that other people get to listen into it as well. So thank you for listening. And remember, until next time, the best advice comes only when you ask. Real quick, I have one question for you. Did you like this episode? If you did, I want to ask you a huge favor. See, the biggest thing that helps this podcast grow and that will spread this message to the whole world is that if you leave a review, a rating, and subscribe to the podcast. What that does is it basically tells the platforms that this podcast is out on is that you like my stuff and I'm doing something right. So take a few seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating or review. I would be extremely grateful. Also, I want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear some feedback. If you have any questions for future episodes, please find me on LinkedIn. Send me a DM, a connection request, Yona Weiss, and I'd love to hear from you.